Exactly where we left. Now, make sure before you proceed onto this movie, again, it's super important that you go into the Firebase console, click on the authentication, and make sure that the sign-in method for the Google is enabled. Otherwise, it's gonna throw random error, which are pretty hard to debug. And by the way, this is the tab where you can look up for the docs. I'll show you and give you a simple assignment for the docs as well. Don't worry about that. So let's go in here and let's just leave this sign in with the Google method there. Now how you can proceed. Now proceeding is really simple. First of all, you have to call a provider there. Okay, that's the step number one. And in the provider, we are going to create a new instance of Google Auth provider. How do we do that? We write a keyword new and then we are going to simply call firebase.auth. And interestingly and surprisingly, this auth doesn't run with a pair of parentheses. This is just an auth dot. And then you have to simply say Google Auth provider. And there we go. So this is basically an inbuilt method there, which is just invoked whenever you need to sign up with the Google. So we need a provider for this. Now, rest of the stuff is pretty easy. This is just the hard part. Rest of the stuff is like a breeze. What you have done in the sign up with the email and password, or creating a user with the email and password, it's exactly the same. So what we're going to do, we are going to simply use firebase.auth, just simply like that, and use sign in with provider. There we go. And in the provider, oops, not the provider, sign in with the pop-up, actually pop-up. And make sure you are writing the case sensitivity pretty clearly in here. This is one of the phase where you actually will make errors there. So we are going to just provide a provider there. Again, you might have got that right. This is going to return us a promise. So we are going to hold that promise inside a variable of promise. And there we go. Now, by the way, there are two methods, by redirecting and by pop-up. Pop-up is pretty common in the web-based application, but if your application is like on a mobile device, then pop-up is not a good idea. You might want to go with the redirect way. Okay, so we'll go with the redirect way as a simple assignment for you, but it's not a big deal. It's not very tough. I'll show you the ways and then I'll give you an assignment. Okay, and just like always, promise needs to be handled with then and catch. So we are going to simply say promise dot then. We are going to handle the good part, and it throws us back a simple result, and we're going to throw a callback function in here. There we go. And the first thing that we are gonna do is hold up the user. So we're gonna create a variable user, and that is gonna be simply inside the result dot user. So there we are holding the user. Now, in case you're wondering what actually is being thrown up back into the result, we can do a quick log for the result. It's almost exactly the same that we were getting when we were signing the user with the email and the password. It's almost exactly the same. Okay, that is the good part. Now let's also make a database entry as well. That makes sense. So firebase dot database, and that is how we access the database. And we're gonna do a quick ref, and that ref is gonna go inside. I'm not gonna make a mistake. I know I did this mistake quite a lot of time in the last video. So, but this time we are gonna go inside the users, and we are simply gonna use user user.uid. And the reason why I'm holding it into the user, this entire result for the user, that is why I can access the UID there. No big deal. That is pretty easy. And now just set the value. So we're going to set a couple of values this time, not just one. So first value we are going to set is going to be the email. That is going to be simply user dot email. And the second value is going to be simply name, which comes up as user dot display name. There we go. And I'll show you how I find out that how I find out that the name is called as display name in a second. But I think it's a good time to handle the other part of the promise as well. So we'll go outside this callback and we'll move outside the then, and we're going to simply say promise dot catch, because I think it's always a good idea to catch the errors, because I may have made some of the typos there. I'm not pretty sure. And again, we are going to do a callback function. Pretty easy. You must be pro in that by now. And as soon as we catch the error, we are going to just simply create a variable msg, or we can call that as as well. I'll simply leave that as a simple exercise for you. Right now, I'm going to just do a message for that, and it's going to be e.message. There we go. And let's just log out the msg. Sounds good. You could have also set a simple for that, and could have changed the state as well, but I'll leave that as a simple exercise for you. And I think we are ready to rock and roll. But I won't be doing this on this screen. But surely I can do. And there is provider assigned but never used. Okay. So I made a typo just as I expected. And there we go. So let me fix that, save that, and there we go. Our application is good now. Now I could have done that in here, but notice as I go into the Firebase console, my account is already logged in there. So that is why it's going to just give me simple next and every stuff. We won't be able to log in there. So what I'll be doing is I'll open another instance of another browser that I have in my system, Firefox, and open up localhost 3000 there. So copy this and bring my lovely Firefox there, localhost 3000, and there we go. And the only reason why I'm doing this is because I want to show you the entire screen of Google login. Okay, my system might be a little bit slow because I'm just uploading a video on the YouTube as well, so it might be a little bit slow. So sign in with the Google. As I click on that, and this kind of pop-up opens up. So it says, hey, there you go, you can open up your account there as well. I'll log in with my account and click on the next. It's asking me for the password. Let me give the password there, and I'll click on the sign in now. And there we go. It has authenticated us. Now, right now, we haven't done anything for the authentication or anything like that. That is why it has just disappeared as soon as it gives me all the permission and everything. But obviously, it has made an entry in the database, and we should be able to see that in the users as well. There we go. The user is there and the provider is Google there. And we have got a user UID there as well. It should make an entry in the database as well. We could have told it to do more things, but we didn't told it to do anything. And we need to find where it is. There we go. So display name is there as well. Now also what I'll be doing is running this in here and open up the console. So inspect element and open up the console. And we can see that a lot of things are being downloaded in here. So we have got a user object, credentials, and everything. So let me go back onto our familiar screen and do it again so that you can see a lot of stuff. Inspect and go to the console. And I'll do a quick sign in with the Google. And since I'm already registered with this account, this shouldn't take long. Okay, there we go. So just verified us again. And notice that we have got a lot of objects in here, and in the users you can see I have got a few things. For example, there we go, we have got a display name, that is my name in here, and a few more things. For example, is anonymous? No, it's not anonymous. And good thing is email verified. Now it's true. So this is a good advantage if you want to create a database with authenticated users and unique users. So that is nice. And notice one more thing. I already logged in there and I clicked on this again. Now notice what happens in the Firebase console. In the authentication, there were no two users that being created. Also in the database, notice there were no two users again being created. So automatically, since we are creating the node based on this unique ID, this unique ID is unique to one unique email. That is why we have been able to do it very smoothly. So obviously we haven't done much in here, but Google login itself is a big deal. Okay. Now what is your assignment? Now go into the authentication section, and this is the URL that you have to go: firebase.google.com/docs/auth/web/google-signin. I know that's a big one. So right now we have done is this pop-up window call, a sign in with pop-up. Okay. Now what you have to do this with the redirect. So sign in with the redirect. and you have to look into the documentation. I won't be giving you any tips or hints or anything. You just have to do other kind of redirect of the login. This is a good time to read the documentation, and trust me, in your job, wherever you are working, you might have already seen this. If you are new, then reading the documentation is a big deal in the web or any kind of development. So make it a good habit, and I'm pretty sure you'll be able to do it. Let me know in the Q&A section that what are the problems you faced, how you solved those problems, and give me a screenshot of what that redirect looks like, and I'll surely catch you up in the next video. Hey there everyone, and welcome back to the React.js. Now this video is a little bit different what we have been doing so far. You have learned quite a lot, and to be honest, the urge of getting started with the project and see our first project on a browser is now over. You have created a lot of them. In fact, if I open up my exercise file, you can see we have created a lot of projects using create react app command that we have already installed. So projects like hello world or maybe prop state, all of has been created. But now I want to go one step back and want to create a project without using the create react app. Now why I am doing this? Now I'm doing this because I want to just show you that how the things are actually laid out, and I want to get you started with the bare minimum basics without using that create react app. Now this will give you idea about what kind of npms we are installing, like React, React DOM, Webpack, and all the things that we have been just generating from the snippets. I want you to write them. Now before we begin with that, I want you to state one fact that this video is not gonna be easy. It's gonna be tough. You'll be making some typos and that will make your app to be break there, and somehow you'll be not able to follow the procedure many times, but it's completely okay. Let's be sitting on the realistic ground in here. Problems are okay, and I want you to watch this video a number of times, and once you successfully complete this video, I want you to do this exact same procedure at least 4 times, no less than that, at least 4 times. So let's get started in here, and without using the create react app, let's try to create our first React app. And I'll be using terminal for that, and I'll be just keeping it on there so that we can see what is happening in there. I think this is good. And we'll be using this webpack.txt as well, because we'll be copying and pasting some things in here. But again, we'll be explaining everything on the code. So first of all, let's create a I need to go into this file, so I'll simply say cd desktop, and there we go in our exercise file. Now I'm in here. I can do a quick ls that yes, I'm in here, and I would be calling this as simply the basic project there. Okay, so let's create a new directory, and I'll call this as project dash 5 is the number in case in here. And in case 5 is already there, a project 5, just name it anything, project dash xyz or anything. Let's go into this, and we'll simply go into the project 5. And now again, inside this, I want you to create a folder of basics. So mkdir basics, so that everything can be placed inside this basic. Now let's go inside the basic. And the first command that I want you to run is npm init. Now you could have just run npm init, but it is going to ask you a number of questions, and we want to skip that. So I'll just answer -y to say, hey, everything is just yes in that case. Okay, and I forgot to put that into a small y, but again, we can just quickly go through it. So name basic is okay, version is okay, description is okay, entry point index.js, we are not worried much about it. No test command, no git repo, no keyword. Author, you can call this anything. I'll call this as Igneous. And license, you can go for the MIT or just leave it blank and just say yes. Let's do a quick ls, and we can see a file named package.json is automatically being created. Now I would like to open this file, and in fact we'll open that later on so that we can see what is there inside this file. And we'll be running a number of commands using npm to fill up some data inside this file, and it will also install some repositories for us, or node modules to be technically correct in there. So I'll say npm I, and I means install there. You can write a fun install there, hyphen install, and I'll say dash capital S. Now there are 2 things in here, dash S and dash D. Now dash S means simply save the files in package.json, and dash D means save the file in the package.json under dev dependencies. Now what are dev dependencies and normal dependencies? Now, when you say simply -s and when you move your file to servers like Heroku, these dependencies get installed on the server. And when you press -D, you are simply saying, hey, these are not much useful. These are for my personal environment, and don't deploy them onto the server. Okay, so we want to deploy the React, obviously. And there we go. It's obviously going to take some time. And there we go. First thing is done. And we need one more, and we are going to again run that. I'm using the top arrow key to just run them again. So npm, I can just move it a little bit on the top so it's much easier for you to see. npm I space -s, and this time I'm going to run the react -dom. So we are going to require two repositories. Obviously we are working with the React and React DOM. Now let's just modify a few things. Now we need a few dependencies on our own. We won't be needing them on the server, but we need kind of a mini server which can do things for us. So let's just install the first one, which is Webpack. And let's just get the Webpack there. And notice I have used a -D because this is just the dev dependencies or development dependencies, which we won't be needing on the server. Okay, let's give it a few seconds. Okay, so it took a little bit while, but it's worth waiting there. We cannot do anything else as well. So now that we have installed the Webpack, the next thing that we are going to install, now basically what the Webpack is doing, it's going to generate a file known as bundle.js, and this file will be containing all of the code there. But what code is going to be inside there? Now we'll be writing our code in ES6, which is not fully understood by all the browser. So we need some guy who can convert our code into the understandable JavaScript, and for that we'll be using the Babel. So there are a couple of Babels that we need to install. The first one is going to be Babel-core, and let's get started with that. And again, this is going to be a dev dependencies in here. Okay, so Babel core has been installed as our dev dependencies. Now the next thing that we know that we need is loader. Now basically all of them are kind of a transpiler which are going to convert our code from ES6 into the understandable JavaScript. So they will be almost always running at the backend. So loader was pretty quick. Now we need some presets as well. So we are going to run preset, and we're going to use the preset for React. So what's the code being understandable by the React? We're going to go with that. And I believe so it's again a small repo or the small node module, which we can just go through with that. And now after that, we are going to run one more preset, and that preset is ES 2015. That is going to take a little bit while, but again, just like always, I'm going to do a little bit of the fast forward to save us some time. Okay, so now this also is done. Now I want to create a couple of files, and I'll be doing again via the terminal because it's much more easier and fast. But you can always go into the project 5 and can check out in the basics that we have got package.json and a lot of node modules have been created. Okay, so that is okay, and we will create a couple of files and folders in here. So let's get back in here. And the first thing that I want you to create is touch, and touch is like create a file, and mkdir is like creating a directory. So touch for file, any kind of file, .js, .html, .txt, anything. So we are going to run first command, that is webpack.config.js. So basically these are the instructions which we'll put in this file. That's going to say, hey, what is the name of the file that you need to generate and where you need to generate it. Okay, so that's the first thing. And then we're going to create one more file, which is obviously going to be our root point or index.html, simply touch space index.html. And now we need a folder there, or you can call that as directory as well, src. And in the previous videos, you might have already seen that we were quite a lot in the src. Okay. And I'll move it a little bit there so that you can see that what's happening in here as well, or I can just go like that. Okay, good so far. And I want to create one more file into the src in which we have been writing so much of the code so far, which is app.js. So you can use touch, and this file should be in the src. So write sr and hit the tab. So in the src, I want you to create app.js and hit enter. And you can go ahead and check that yes, there is app.js. All of these files are absolutely blank there. Okay, now it's a good time to run our Atom there. And where are you, Atom? There you are. And let's just file, open, and let's go on to the desktop and our exercise, project 5, basics. So this is the basic folder I want to open. And you can see a lot of files are there opened up, and one of them is webpack.config.js. Now what you need to do is simply go into your basic, there we go, webpack.txt, and I'm gonna open the webpack into a new window there. So file, new window of the Atom, and file, open, and let's go onto the desktop and open this webpack.txt. Okay, just a blank file. So Command A, Command C, or basically just I'm selecting all of the things and I'm copying it, and go back into webpack.config.js and paste that and save that. Now basically let's try to understand quickly here, because it's always going to be almost exactly the same, but there are a couple of editings that you might need to do. So let me quickly explain that. Now the first is this app guy. Now this app.js should be exactly the same that you are creating. Now in this case we have actually created the app in the src and it's named as app.js. Make sure it's small there. The name of the file should be exactly the same that you are having here. This is the entry point in here. Save that. And what should be the output? So this is the entry point which we will be providing, and this is the output file, what it should be named. So we are saying that, hey, create a folder named build, and inside that put a file build.js which should be compiled. And again we are doing exactly the same for build and build.map. These are two required, and rest of the things almost always are going to exactly be the same. So no big deal, just save this file and save that. Now let's go ahead and try to do a couple of more things. Now the important part is app.js. Okay, now what we'll be doing in the app.js, we'll be writing our entire component, and you might be thinking that, hey, what I'm going to be doing is rcom and just hit the tab key and there we go, we have got our component. No, you won't be doing this right now. I want you to write the entire code along with me, because this is going to be the best practice. Okay, so just write along with me. And first of all, you're going to import React and put a comma, and after the React you're going to import component, and these are all going to come from React, and you can close that as well. Okay, next thing that we need to import is React DOM. So let's just write it, import React DOM, and we are going to import them from React DOM. So React-DOM. So the two files are being used. And some of you might be wondering why we are writing this. Now I want you to write all of these things because I want you to train like a ninja, like a pro. So in case the React app is not available or somehow it's buggy, you know exactly how to do the things exactly manually there as well. Obviously you're going to make a lot of typos, a lot of problems are going to be there, but it's bare necessary. So let's just create a class, and we're going to name our class as simply app. And I should have renamed this file as capital app.js because that's the convenience. And actually I'm going to do that. So rename that, and I'll just call this as capital app. That would be actually a better choice. And obviously if I'd done that, I'll go into the webpack and I need to capitalize this as well. I think this is the best practice in here. Okay. And we can close this guy and don't save. We'll go into the app.js. Again, we have to write it again, so no problem at all. We can write that again. So import React, comma, component. Oops, I'll make a space there as well. It looks good. And these are going to be imported from React. Okay, looks good. Now we need to import the DOM as well. Import React DOM, and this is going to be imported from React-DOM. Okay, looks good. Save that. Now it's good. And now let's create a class. So the class is going to be simply app, and usually the convenience that we follow is whatever the name of the file is, we use exactly the same. And since the class name should be the first uppercase letter, that's we are following the convention in here by capitalizing our file name as well. And it's going to have extends the component. Okay. Now you might be seeing a lot of people using .create class and all of that. Now all of these are previous methods which are almost deprecated now, but still they work. And but this is the latest method that we are working in here. Now in that you have to call in a render method, and inside the definition of the render method you have to return your JSX. Now in order to return your JSX, first let's close this, and now let's hit enter there. And what you can do is you can simply write a division there, and there we go, our division is in here. And all I'm going to be doing in this division is I'm going to say cool React app. Okay, so far so good. Now what we are going to do now is we are going to inject this is our pure React code, and we are going to inject this code in our index.html. And don't worry, we are not going to write our entire index.html in here. We're going to just hit the exclamatory and hit the tab. Now since I have already installed my Emmet, that's why I'm able to generate that. But I'm going to get rid of a lot of things in here because we want to get started with the bare minimum basics. We'll get rid of the title as well. We don't need it right now. I'll just go into the body and I'm going to create a div. There we go. And my div is going to have an ID there. And the ID that I'll be having is going to be root. So I'm going to say ID equals, and let's call this as root, or I'll follow the convention there by using the single quotes root. You can call this anything. So bare minimum ID. Now go back into your app.js and notice we are not rendering anything so far. And let's try to render that as well. So how we can render that? We can use, and notice this rendering in our create React app is basically being done by index.js, but we can do that in app.js as well. So we're going to say React DOM, and we're going to simply say .render. And again, this is going to answer two questions, what and where. So what you need to render, I'll say I need to render app, and it's going to say where you want to render it, and I'll say document dot get element by ID. And what is the ID? I'll say root there. So no big deal, we have just gone through with it. Now so far it's almost good. Now let's go back our index.html, and it's basically almost good there. Now we need to go back into our terminal there. And actually I'll be running some commands on the new terminal. So I'll hit Command T to open up a new terminal, and notice I'm still into the basics and I'm into where I can see my package.json. This is super important. And now one node module is already installed on my system, but I want you to run this command sudo npm -g, and we'll install it globally, -g npm install -g webpack. Now my webpack is installed already globally, but you need to run this command. Just hit enter your password, and just wait for a few seconds. Okay, and now what I'll be doing is, once it's being done, I want you to run webpack -w. That is for watch mode. So let's just run that in the watch mode. And notice you need to specify babel-loader. So these problems are completely okay. And it's no longer allowed to omit -loader suffix when using loaders. So you need to specify Babel loader. And notice it gives you some of the files there. So notice we are having some problems in here. And the problem is Babel loader. So let's go into package.json. And notice it's actually webpack.config.js, and it's saying, hey, you need to specify Babel-loader instead of Babel. And notice we have already installed the Babel loader. So all we'll be doing is we'll be saying Babel-loader. And I think this should fix up the things. And this is how you actually learn how you can fix up the things. These are completely okay. And now let's just try it again. And notice everything, if everything is green there, it means things are almost okay. And you can see one more thing, that this new folder build is being created, and inside that we have got bundle.js. A lot of things is in here, and bundle.map as well. Now you don't need to worry much about what the things are going on in here. We can just simply close that, and we don't need to worry about it. Okay, that looks good. Let's just close this bundle.js, and I think that's okay. So now you have learned how you can quickly do some of the things in here. Now the last thing before we move on is we need to import this bundle.js in our main HTML file as well. So let's go into our index.html, and we'll be calling this just before the body. And again, you cannot call these script in the head. You have to call them inside the body and actually at the bottom of the body. So I'll be simply using a script tag. There we go. And in the script, I have to mention the type as well. So type is going to be equal to text/JavaScript. And you know all of it. Quite frankly, I expect that you should be knowing that. And it's going to be equal to, and where it's going to be simply in build/bundle.js. And there we go. Finally, we have called up our JavaScript, which is going to inject all of the code of app.js. So basically what's happening is in the app.js, we are writing our React code, and we are ordering it that whenever you find this root element, inject all of this component or all of the code that we are writing in here in the index.html at this position. If we have other component, we can create other div and we can just inject our React there as well. So far it's good. Now what I want to do is just go back into your folder. There we go, in the project 5 basics, and basically just open up index.html, and it's going to open up into anything, and you should be seeing cool React app. I know we have done a lot of things, and technically speaking, it's too much to just see a cool React app. But again, I would advise you, all of you, that this is the bare minimum basic. Everybody should learn this to how to tackle the errors and problems and everything. You will be much more familiar with the files, and then do it at least 4 times. I know that's too much, but at least 4 times is required. You want to learn that React.js? Then do it for the 4 times. And I'll catch you up in the next video.